What's up everybody, this is Danny, and today we're going to look at the more budget-friendly Samsung Galaxy S20 FE or Fan Edition. It comes in fun new colors and has a lot of features that the more expensive Galaxy S20 and the S20 Plus phones have that were released earlier this year. So what I want to do today is compare all three of these phones and help you make the best buying decision and let you know what's actually different. And then for a bonus, I'm going to do a camera comparison with all three of these and let you know which one has the best camera. So we have a lot to talk about. Let's go ahead and get started. So let's talk about the build quality. The Galaxy S20 and S20 Plus have glass backs. They are glossy and that's how you can tell, where the Fan Edition has a plastic back and is done in a matte finish. The good thing is that it doesn't feel cheap by any means. It actually feels really nice in the hand. It is a little bit lighter, so that's something that you might want to know about, but I'm not sure if it's a big deal or not anymore, but this is also less prone to fingerprints, which is really nice. Most of you guys will just be using a case anyways, but if you want that matte feel, you can always just put a skin on it from the channel sponsor Dbrand. I'll leave a link down below for you if you want to pick one up for the S20 series. When you flip them over, they all have different screen sizes. The S20 has the smallest screen at 6.2 inches, and the S20 FE sits in the middle at 6.5 inches, and the S20 Plus has the largest screen at 6.7 inches. They all have super fast 120Hz refresh rate, which is amazing. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, it just makes everything look and feel extremely fluid on the screen. My camera is doing it no justice whatsoever. So there are two big differences with the Fan Edition display. So the Fan Edition has a full HD Plus display, while the S20 and S20 Plus have a Quad HD Plus display. So it does have higher resolution, but when you're running at 120 Hz, they all run at basically full HD Plus. So that's something to note. But if you drop it to 60 Hz, then you will have a higher resolution display on the S20 and S20 Plus. Now, depending on how you feel, some people may celebrate, some people may not, but the FE has a flat display, so no curves on it whatsoever. I personally like this a lot better. The S20 and S20 Plus have a slight curve to the display and it wraps around the sides, so what that means is that the FE's bezels are more visible around the display, while the S20 and S20 Plus with those curves, it gives it a more bezel-less look. Not a huge deal in my opinion. Actually, the flat display makes it easier for accessories like glass screen protectors, but let me know which one that you prefer in the comment section below. What's great is that these three phones share more similarities than differences. They are all IP68 water resistant. They come with 128 gigabytes of storage with micro SD card support. They all have dual speakers with one in the earpiece and one at the bottom. They have in-display fingerprint scanners for secure login, 25-watt fast wire charging, fast wireless charging, and reverse wireless charging. They all have the very snappy Qualcomm Snapdragon 865 processor. I am based in the US, so no Exynos here. But all of these phones are loaded in terms of specs. But there are some differences, so here are some major ones. The Galaxy S20 and the S20 Plus come with 12 gigabytes of RAM, while the Fan Edition comes with half the RAM at 6 gigabytes. So if you are a multitasking beast, then you will need to go with the higher end, but the average consumer should be just fine with the Fan Edition. The battery sizes are also different due to the size of the phones. So the more expensive Galaxy S20 actually has the smallest battery at 4,000 milliamp hours, while the Fan Edition and the S20 Plus share the same 4,500 milliamp hour battery, so you'll get better battery life there. So when it comes to the FE being $300 less, it really does pack a punch. And what's great is when it comes to software, they're all running the same version of Android and running the latest version of One UI, which is One UI 2.5 at the time of this video. So the experience is solid all the way around. So let's talk about camera, because that's the question that I've been getting the most on social media. The Fan Edition, being the cheaper model, it still has a triple camera setup with the main, ultra wide, and telephoto, but there are some differences with the more expensive models. The secondary sensor on the S20 and S20 Plus have 64 megapixel resolution, while the FE has an 8 megapixel telephoto, but the FE is a true telephoto with 3x optical zoom, where the S20 and S20 Plus use a hybrid zoom. For that reason, the FE does have slightly sharper telephoto shots. The difference isn't super drastic, but if you're a telephoto buff, then you'll be happier with the cheaper Fan Edition. Here's an example. Take a look at this telephoto shot of the building. The FE captured more of the brick texture, so that is impressive. The S20 and S20 Plus do have that 64 megapixel mode though, which the Fan Edition does not have, even though you do lose some dynamic range because it doesn't use the pixel binning that it does when it compresses to 12 megapixels, but the sheer resolution is amazing. You can see it when I crop into this 1000% scale, how sharp the S20 and S20 Plus remain versus the Fan Edition, and this works best in landscape shots like this one. Look at how far I was from these people on this shot, but at 1000% scale, you can see them sitting on the dock with no issue with the S20 and S20 Plus. Same thing with this gator, it was taken farther away from the dock, but at 1000% scale, you can see just how much detail is retained with the 64 megapixels. You can clearly see the eyes and texture while the FE is blurry. But this isn't something that the average consumer is going to use all the time, so this isn't a big deal, but I just wanted to show you the difference. But most people will be just shooting in normal 12 megapixel mode anyways, so that's what I would suggest for the best overall image. The ultrawide camera is also slightly different on the Fan Edition. The focal length is exactly the same, so during the day you won't notice the difference at all. I think they all look great. And even though the pixel size is smaller on the sensor on the FE, I didn't notice a huge difference at night either. The only thing is that on the night mode, it was picking up a lot of green compared to the other two, and it happened multiple times, so I hope they can fix this in a software update. In terms of the main sensor, all three appear to be using the exact same sensor, so shots will look very similar, which is a great thing, especially during the day. All of them have fantastic dynamic range and colors. They all have that Samsung slight overexposure, but you're getting one of the best overall cameras on the market with a robust camera app to go with it. So this confirms for the most part you're getting basically the same flagship quality pictures, even in a cheaper package. There may be some slight differences between the shots, but after looking at about 100 side by side, most of the time it's pretty hard to tell the difference. The one thing I noticed consistently is the Fan Edition does have more shadow detail in the processing, so images do come out to be slightly brighter. This is personal preference, but some will definitely like this better. And in some shots, it's really drastic, like this shot of Spaceship Earth. Look at the tree detail in the panel wall, and in some instances, it shows higher dynamic range with better highlight control. I'm sure this is mostly to do with camera software, but I just wanted to show you how good the Fan Edition camera is. If you shoot a lot of portrait mode shots, the FE at the time of this video uses the wide angle instead of the telephoto. I hope they give a choice to the consumer later on with the software update to use the telephoto. When it comes to video, they all shoot up to 4K 60 frames per second and look very similar. It's hard to tell the difference here, but the S20 and S20 Plus can shoot 8K video where the FE is capped at 4K 60 frames per second. Not a big deal, but something to know. In harsher lighting scenario like this one, the Fan Edition actually has the better video. Better contrast on the shirt. Look at the dynamic range on the plants in the back here in this harsh lighting. This was really surprising to me. This was just shot on pure auto mode. For the selfie lovers, the Fan Edition has a 32 megapixel front-facing camera versus the 10 megapixel on the S20 and S20 Plus, but the quality is basically the same in my testing. I can't see a huge difference at all. Even when it got darker, the S20 and S20 Plus have bigger pixels for better low light performance, but it's hard to tell the difference in this scenario. With low light shots, I'm seeing the same thing. Most of the pictures look similar, so that is a great thing. It's nice to see consistency for the most part between these three. The one thing that I did notice is that when taking regular shots without night mode, if you pixel peep, the S20 and S20 Plus are sharper with less noise. I'm sure this is a software thing as well, so they can improve on this over time. If you use night mode though, the sharpness is gained back, so I don't think this is a huge deal because I think night mode will be used most of the time. I did notice that sometimes the regular S20 triggered a longer exposure time out of the three. Not sure why, but this happened consistently. That's why some of the S20's pictures look different. But even in super low light conditions where you can barely see this grass, night mode does a fantastic job on all three, bringing back the detail. So even though there are some slight differences in color rendition between the three sometimes, for the most part, you'll get a very similar nighttime experience. One last thing before we go, the zoom capabilities. They all have 30x space zoom. I don't know if you want to use this or not, but in a pinch, it'll definitely do. The Fan Edition seems to over sharpen the image under 30x, so it does appear sharper, but less noisy on the S20 Plus. In this case, on the Main Street Castle shot, this really shows you how far 30x zoom is. You can see again with the FE with a little bit more detail under 30x zoom, and moving down to the clock, this one really shows the difference. You can see the over sharpening on the Fan Edition, but I think most people will prefer this. So after the camera comparison, what do you think about the Galaxy S20 FE or Fan Edition? Do you think at $300 less that this is the Galaxy S20 to get now? I mean, I'm pretty sure that that kind of takes the S20 out of it, and now the comparison's really between the S20 Plus and the Fan Edition. So let me know which one that you would choose. I think for the average consumer, I think the FE is going to be the one, and I think it's going to be a big seller. And especially maybe during the holidays when this thing gets a little bit of a price cut, this is gonna be something great. Let me know what you think. Subscribe for more content like this. Hit that thumbs up because that really does help out the channel. Or if you just wanna see a lot more of these type of videos, and I will see you in the next one.